So I'll start with my first question with Vikram ji. Vikram ji has led a blockchain technology services company. So he's the right person to answer how his journey has been as a blockchain technology provider and what all use cases that he sees getting traction across the world because clientele is global.
Thanks for having me here. So, regarding our journey, so I think we started kind of like towards blockchain in 2016, end of 16, start of 17. And the initial years were like more of a retail heavy use cases like well, the wallets, the exchanges, the NFT marketplaces, as we evolve with this space, right? And over the years, what we have seen, the real world asset tokenization are getting a lot of momentum, especially with the use cases on these like public blockchains as well. So, which one of the clients we are working with, they are leading one of the leading investor in US. So, building the same kind of use case where kind of like they have been able to kind of save more than 80% of the cost towards the the custody solution, the risk management, and all sort of the supply chain over the this asset tokenization part. So one thing, and the other thing where we are seeing a lot of traction is in the healthcare space. So we are also working with one of the state in UAE where we are putting the healthcare records onto the blockchain. And similarly, another traction which we are seeing, which is happening, currently, we are working with one of the city in UAE, which is Saudi Arabia, where we are doing something like DigiLocal for them, over the blockchain. So the things are evolving, moving from the retail space to the more interfaces use cases.
What are you finding in terms of adoption of blockchain technology? Is it improving in terms of how the governments and are looking at this technology per se, or there's still challenges in most of the geographies where your clientele is based?
So if we look at it from the global perspective, Singapore, Dubai, UAE, all these kind of countries have been very welcoming to blockchain. They rather use it as a USP, to attract the talent and as well as grow their economy, I would say. Governments in India, I would say they are also very proactive towards the blockchain because we are still facing the challenge wherein crypto and blockchain goes hand in hand, very difficult for people to understand the separation, the difference between the crypto and the blockchain, right? So I would say blockchain is not a kind of a disruptive technology. It's basically a foundational technology. And for any foundational technology to get into the mainstream, it's a journey actually, journey of 15 to 20 years or maybe bigger than that, I would say. We can draw a very good example through the adoption of this email. When the email was invented, it was in 1972. But it was only when WWW World Wide Web was invented when it got mainstream, right? Because things were not ready to adopt that kind of innovation, TCP/IP, when people could not believe that the data can be transported over digital networks, right? But and the telecom company at that point of time had already laid infrastructure, cable kind of infrastructure, where two points has to be connected before a call could be made. So for the companies to understand that the challenges and the nuances which was required to how to implement the TCP/IP, it took them 10 to 15 odd years, right? When they actually started building internal use cases on the using TCP/IP kind of internet kind of operations, and then they actually understood, right, and starting experimenting with those use cases. So similarly, blockchain, when you look at the adoption, so goes through the same kind of phase. I think we are into the 15th year of the into the blockchain. When the Bitcoin was invented, only when we came to know about the blockchain. Before that, nobody was aware about what is the blockchain, right? So I would say the time has come now where people have started experimenting a lot, and the challenges are more towards how we can retain the Web 2.0 experience and build the Web 3.0 infrastructure, underlying infrastructure under the blockchain application. At the same time, since we are also kind of like running an academy wherein we intend to kind of like make India as the blockchain capital of the world. Our kind of kind of request to each and every state government and even the central government, like don't treat it as a kind of like a elective subject. It is a foundational technology. It has to be part of every course curriculum. For example, the way you teach databases in the colleges, you have to just teach TLT. That's it. And that's what blockchain is about. That's my views on that.
There is a perception in the industry that of a wait and watch attitude towards adopting this technology. Why is this perception formed, and why there is no mass adoption of technology happening?
So I would say for any technology, again, that's the same thing what I just reiterated. Two factors are very important. One is like the degree to which any technology is new to the world, novelty, and the second is the ecosystem support required for any technology to kind of like have the mass adoption. So, for example, like the compliance, the regulations are the biggest barrier to the adoption. Though I'm not blaming any government or anything, they are right at their own level because they are taking very calculated stand. But if you look at like the sandbox, the Gift City initiative which has been taken, and the moment you take away that kind of a restriction, the barrier of compliance, you can see that mass adoption start happening. Like for example, JP Morgan has started settling US dollar from the Gift City under the Gift City initiative. Similarly, we have done one platform wherein like we are tokenizing the real world assets, and that platform is also registered under the Gift City initiative. So ecosystem support is very much required for any kind of like technology to get to the mass scale. And the moment you solve that problem, that adoption happens. I will also quote one more example wherein most of the enterprises struggle, like where should they start from, right? Even like if they are able to kind of like have an answer to the ecosystem support, or maybe the regulation side, or maybe kind of like having a company which is set up maybe in a like a crypto-friendly jurisdiction, or maybe which can allow them to do experiment, right? But what is the next step for them? So they need some hand holding. I think the evangelists like and like the people sitting on this forum. So that kind of like awareness has to be there. So how we can take that technology to the masses, right? So I mean we are doing like NFTs for Skoda Autos India. They were not aware about it. They don't knew like how it can be done. So we kind of hand-holded them right from the beginning to the final stages, and which would be launching by I would say like this month only. So again, summing up like the degree to which the application is novel, and the complexity and the ecosystem support required is very much important.
I